In this video, I am going to talk about the hell, the brutality that is endometriosis. If you know and you've been there, then you'll understand me. So I went from agonizing, relentless cramps once a month that left me lying on the floor, howling in pain, unable to walk, and vomiting relentlessly. Not because the hormones were flushing through my body, but because the pain was so excruciating that it was actually making me physically sick. To the present day, where I have some cramps, but almost minimal. And disclaimer here, if you want to recover from endometriosis, then you're going to need to find what the emotional root cause is. Now, sometimes the answer to this is glaringly obvious, but sometimes we can go down a bit of a like pathological hole where we're overanalyzing everything. So I'm going to tell you about how I discovered it. So when I first started getting these really extreme cramps that were causing me to stay up all night and throw up, I obviously went to the doctor thinking that the doctor was going to help me. And I kind of fell on the floor when they went, oh, well, it's just a bad period. Like, here's some contraception for you. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a horrible experience with contraception. And I was also kind of the view intuitively that abusing the morning after pill is what had perhaps triggered this condition. And I still stand by this. I think giving people with a hormonal disorder synthetic hormones is not the answer to this problem. You're just shutting down your reproductive system and masking what's going on. So then I realized I had no choice but to go down a kind of holistic route with this. So I threw everything at it, as I'm sure you do too. I went with diet. I cut out coffee, gluten, dairy, sugar, you name it. I was a lifelong vegetarian, and I even started eating meat because hormones are entirely made up of proteins, and I thought maybe I've got a protein deficiency. And I'm going to be honest with you, doing this like 100% helped. It did reduce some of the cramps, but not enough. And also, like, I'm a human, you know what I mean? We have days where we might eat ice cream or have a drink. So it didn't feel like that was the solution. Anyway, over time it became unbearable. Like I had a situation where I was up from 8 o'clock at night to 8 in the morning, vomiting in physical pain. And when you've had a flare up like that, your body is physically exhausted. And obviously, I hadn't slept all night, and I knew that I had to phone in sick to work. And I phoned my doctor up, and the doctor basically said to me, "Sorry, but we don't give out sick notes for periods." So great to know that they really understand this condition. And that's when I was like, right, I'm going to have to get a diagnosis. Now, if you know anything about endometriosis, the only way they can diagnose it is through cutting into you, which is just crazy. And there should be, in this day and age, some kind of blood test to be able to determine if you had it. But I got to the point where I was like, I at least need a diagnosis, and yeah, I want to have the operation if it's going to reduce this hell that I'm going through. So I got the operation, and my periods were not as heavy after the operation, but I was pretty devastated when I realized after a couple of months that the brutal pain was coming back. And I was just like, no, I can't live with this. And they do say that endometriosis is a condition that you kind of just have to manage, that you live with for life. I don't agree. And this is where I discovered the amazing wonder and power of acupuncture. So I found an acupuncturist here in Glasgow who does 5-element acupuncture. And I was kind of a bit skeptical because I've had acupuncture before, and to be honest with you, it didn't do shit for me. So I went in, and this guy told me, well, you haven't had real acupuncture. And he spent the first 90 minutes really trying to understand me, like my parents' relationship, where I was in the pecking order, favorite color, favorite season. He wanted to get a holistic view of my overall health, because it is believed in Chinese Taoism that the root cause is something to do with an emotional disharmony in the body. Anyway, he gave me 5 rounds of acupuncture. And I mean, I was blown away. Like, I don't believe that there's like one hit wonders or one thing fixes all, but my cramps went from 100 to like 10. I mean, I was like, you're a magician. How did this work? But he said to me, I think it's your job that's causing you this pain. So I had been down this rabbit hole of thinking like, it's, it's my reproductive center. Is it to do with like dysfunctional relationships, sex, the relationship with my mom? Is it to do with the fact that I'm an out of work actress and I'm not getting to expressively be creative and express myself? And that's all getting suppressed in my ovaries. But at the time, I was actually working as a full-time nanny, and I was a live-in nanny. So I would travel the world and I would live with families for up to 3 months at a time. And he was like, no, 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 forget all that. It's your job as a nanny. Anyway, I was slowly kind of moving away from that line of work at that time. And I did realize that actually there was a direct link between me working in this job and me having the worst flare ups of my life. And it all made sense. So basically, whenever I was working as a nanny, like children are amazing, maternal instincts are wonderful, but there's a very kind of like aggressive tiger mum energy that can come out in this space. And so, if you've got a child that's screaming and flaring up at you, and then you've got a mum that's kind of pecking at you, but you're literally in someone else's home, you have to smile and be nice and be polite, even though you're naturally feeling your defenses and you're feeling this rage and this anger. And remember, I was living with these families for up to 3 months at a time. So it wasn't like I could go home and kind of rant to a colleague or just like decompress myself. I just had to live with all this energy that was coming up and smile and suppress it down. And of course, that anger was very much coming out into my ovaries. And if I think about the pain that I was experiencing, it was anger. It was like a toddler kicking off. And by the way, very real tip here, if you are having a flare up, I do sometimes think like holding your womb and just imagining it kind of embodying the energy of a child and just loving it and being nurturing and kind while it's kind of kicking off can really help. I do believe that you have to throw diet and everything at it. You've got to do breath work. You've got to be kind to your womb. And I do believe that all of these things absolutely suppress the symptoms, but they're not going to take it away. In order for you to remove it, you have to try and identify what the emotional root cause is. Once I did this, there was a very clear connection that the more I was nannying, the worse my periods got. The less I nannied, the more and more the pain subsided, until eventually at the beginning of this year I stopped nannying completely. I have a new line of work as a hypnotherapist, and I am amazed to find out that my periods are no longer ruining my life. So I just wanted to give any of you guys out there who are suffering some hope. It is possible. You absolutely can overcome this disorder. Unfortunately, modern medicine seems to know very little about women's reproductive health. So it is like an investigation that you'll have to go down yourself. But you absolutely can get this out of your life. I hope that was helpful for any of you.